Good morning and welcome to our newly relaunched 10-minute training. Today's training is on Nursery Ministry, and I'm so excited that you're joining us here today to discuss this topic. Now, before we get into what I want to say, what I want to tell you that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell you about a specific program that you need to implement or something that's going to be difficult or cost you a lot of money. What we're going to do today is talk about some of the simple and effective ways that you can develop and build a very excellent and worthwhile nursery ministry. The nursery is a place where, for many families, for many kids, could be the very first introduction that they have to church. So you want to be very intentional in what you're doing in that space and in that time with kids. I understand that for a lot of people the perception might be, or the thinking might be, that the nursery is babysitting for parents so that they can go to the worship service, something for the young ones who are not quite old enough for Sunday school, but they need to have something for parents to feel like they can be free to go to worship. We're not going to talk about whether that's the best perception or thoughts to have on it or not today, but what I want to tell you is that even if that is the reality of what nursery is in your context, there is so much that you can do to bring value and make this a meaningful experience for children. The first thing that I want to say about this is the environment is so important. I'm talking about both the physical space, but also the atmosphere that is present within the nursery space. First, a tip I'd love to share is that if you can find a space in your church, if you haven't already set aside a space that is for only the nursery, then that is the most ideal. This age is the most vulnerable age group and has particular needs, and it would be really great if they can have a space that is just set aside for that nursery age. And when I'm thinking nursery, I'm thinking 2.5 and younger. So the babies, the little ones, maybe up to 3. That might look different in different churches, but that's the age I'm thinking about when I'm talking about nursery right now. So you want to have this space. It should be clean, it should be free of a lot of clutter. You don't actually need to purchase a lot of fancy toys or equipment or furniture. Really, you just need some space where babies can move around. A change table is really helpful for diaper changing. Some toys, some simple toys, some board books, nothing that can't be cleaned easily. And by that I mean no stuffed animals or plush things. You want to keep this a sanitary environment. So have some toys, some balls, some age-appropriate toys in there. Maybe a carpet area, depending on what type of flooring there is, some place to sit down. And that's really all you need. Clean, fresh looking. If you can paint it in a fresh color, that's great. But again, you don't need to have big murals and lots of decorations and all of that. It's certainly helpful if you're able to do that in that kind of a space. But the big thing is that it's a clean and welcoming environment. It's a place where parents, particularly parents who might be visiting your church, can walk in and say, hey, they care about the space that my baby is going to be in. Parents are looking for a clean space, a space where they know that their child is going to be well cared for. So those are the important things in that. Now, the physical space is one thing, but the kind of atmosphere that's created is also so critical. And by that I mean a sense of love and welcome and care. That's what you want to have in this space. Because like I said, for many kids, this is going to be their first experience of church. And so the opportunity that you have is to show them God's love, to show them that they are special, that they are welcome, that church is a place where they can come and be loved and cared for. So you want to ensure that your staff who are in there are people who love babies and who love Jesus. And really that's my criteria for any age vulnerable volunteer working with any age of child, but you want to make sure that the volunteers love babies and that they love Jesus, and that they show that they smile, that they talk in voices that are soothing and calming and gentle, that they extend love to kids, that they look at babies, that they can just allow babies to start to feel comfortable. Remember that for many babies, if a parent is leaving their child in the nursery, this very well could be the first time that they are left, or the only time maybe in a week that they're left with someone other than mom or dad or a grandparent. So again, that could be a difficult transition as babies are being left in the nursery. So the people that you have and the kind of environment that you're creating, the atmosphere in the environment, is going to be really important in ensuring that babies start to feel this sense of security and safety and love. And that is the big thing in a nursery ministry. Again, you can find programs, and for some churches they're able to have full curriculums purchased even for the nursery age, and there are some great resources out there if you're able to do that, and if you have the human resources to be able to do that, and that's a value for you. But if you don't feel like you can't have an excellent nursery ministry, because the important thing is that you are teaching simple ways of who God is. And you do that, first of all, by the way that you extend love to the babies. And then you can be showing love to the kids. There's simple things that you can do, like as you are changing. If you are changing a baby, you're changing them, and you can be speaking God's love to them and telling them how special they've been created in God's image. If you're giving them a snack or feeding them a bottle, you can be talking to them about how God has given us food, and we can thank God for the food that He's given to us. Throughout the morning, looking for ways that you can just reinforce the love and the care that God has for these little ones, the way that they are special. This is something, if that's what you're doing in each week in your nursery, that is going to be valuable, because those kids, the impressions that are being formed is they're hearing those words of love and care spoke over them. They're hearing those prayers and those blessings spoken over them, and they're coming to be comfortable in this space. So that's really important. There's simple lessons that you could do with kids that don't require a lot of preparation and don't require a lot of materials to use. So if you have some simple board books and keep some good board books in there, they can be Bible stories, simple Bible stories, maybe of creation, of Jesus and the kids, of the Good Shepherd, just some simple stories that you can be reading to children. I would encourage you that you develop a routine in your ministry, in your nursery ministry, your nursery time. So again, for the most part, you don't need to schedule this time, and just let babies explore and play with toys and be interacting. But you might want to have a routine such as kids come in and they maybe have some time to play, and then maybe at some point in that time that they're in the nursery, you have a circle time. You gather all the babies together and you sit in a circle and have a couple of songs, simple songs that you teach the kids. Action songs are really great. A prayer time, and maybe you read a short story, or you tell them something about Jesus. It doesn't have to be long. 5 minutes is sufficient. 5-10 minutes, in fact, is probably the best length for something like that. Depending on the age of the kids in your nursery, you might also want to have simple crafts for them. If you have 2-year-olds in there, they're certainly capable, from 1 to 2, of being able to maybe glue things onto a page or to color something. So you might want to have some simple craft activities as well. This is really all that is to a nursery ministry, to be effective and to be helpful. Also, don't underestimate the power of prayer and the power of how kids are learning what it means to be part of the community of faith. I have seen babies as young as 13, 14 months understand the word prayer and put their hands together because that's what they've seen. I've seen that in my own family. Babies learn this if they're seeing these consistent actions. They learn that, and maybe they don't fully understand it, but again, the nursery ministry is all about the impression and the atmosphere you're creating for these little ones. And so I encourage you to really be thoughtful and intentional in how you set up your nursery ministry. Now, again, there are many challenges that might prevent you from having even a staffed or a well-staffed nursery ministry. So I want to talk about that just for a moment. First of all, if you have volunteers, but you can't have the same volunteer in the nursery every week or the same few people rotating, you're always having different people, that, while not ideal, especially with babies, because consistency is so critical and so helpful, it's something that you can work with. And so I encourage you to have a routine that every volunteer that's going to be in the nursery follows. So make sure people are doing things the same way. You might want to teach simple songs to transition kids from activities. So make sure everyone sings the same song. If you do a cleanup song, if kids are learning to clean up their toys, make sure everyone knows the same simple song so that at least if the people aren't consistent, the routine and what's happening can be consistent, and babies can learn that and learn that routine and feel safe in that. It's important that there is routine for that sense of security and comfort for especially for little ones. So that's something that you can do. If you're not able to actually have consistent volunteers in your nursery, which might be the reality, it's understandable that for some churches there's just not enough people to always have volunteers, or perhaps the nursery age is the one age where you look at and say, we just can't staff that with volunteers because we struggle to get volunteers in our other ages. What I would suggest right now in that is have a nursery space available. Again, the environment, have this good space, this welcoming space available for parents to make use of. Make sure it's clearly communicated that this is a space that parents can bring their little one to, but there won't be someone that they can leave their child with and go back to the service. And in that case, I would recommend that maybe you look at, is there a way that you can have the service either through audio or maybe also video present in that nursery space? Perhaps it can be located near where your worship space is. Maybe you can put a video feed in, or an audio. Can you put speakers in so parents can hear, so that parents aren't feeling like they're missing out by coming to church every week and having to spend time in the nursery with their baby. I'd also encourage in that case that you look at what are the ways that you can encourage parents to feel welcome if they have to stay in the worship service, or if they need to come out for a few minutes, to feel welcome to come in and out. Perhaps there's space in your main worship space, your sanctuary, where you can set that as a space for parents with young kids. Maybe have a rocking chair back there, a blanket laid out, a few quiet toys or things, and an understanding within your community that that's a space where parents with little ones can be and be with their little ones and still be in the same worship space. So those are some other things that if you can't in human resources create or develop a nursery ministry, that you might want to consider. And the last thing on that I want to say is that if you are a church that rarely sees consistently kids or babies or that young age, you might think that this is just not relevant to you. I wonder though, if you had a space available and you had it ready to go, even if it's just a small room that has a change table in it and a few things, if you had that available, I wonder if for that visiting family or that new family that comes into town, if that might make the difference between them choosing to get to know your community better or not. Perhaps there's an opportunity to reach out and develop a ministry to families But having the space available is going to be such a great way, such a great win in any family that might come in, and even for visitors, for visiting families to know that even if they've shown up and they're not planning to come consistently, or they're traveling through town, to know that your church still cares and still is ready to receive even the littlest among us. That's going to be so important. So I've given some examples already of how you can show God's love, how you can be doing things like talking with babies and kids as you're doing different actions. Again, the nursery ministry, one thing I want to highlight is even if the general perception in your community or even among the volunteers who are helping that this is babysitting, ensure that it is babysitting with a purpose of communicating God to little ones. And so if you're volunteering in the nursery, if you're the person in there or the people who are in there, focus on the kids. That is your number one priority. This is not social time for the adults and the parents. And I understand if parents are staying with their child in the nursery, that they might want to chat with other parents, and that's great. That's wonderful. But if you're the volunteer or the lead person in there, make sure that you are paying attention to the kids, and that they're just not off on their own playing and doing their own thing, and you just attend to them if they cry, if they need changing, or if they're hungry, or something like that happens. Pay attention to them. Look at the child in the eye. Learn their names. Call them by names often, and speak those words of love and blessing over them throughout the time that they're in the nursery. I can't tell you how much of a difference that makes. Even if you don't see it and aren't aware, and babies can't respond back to you with a sense of understanding what you're doing or what you're saying to them. They can't give answers. If you ask questions to a Bible story, they might not be able to respond back in that kind of a way, but they are being formed. The nursery is a ministry of forming and of shaping. And so I think it is such an important area, and is so critical and key when it comes to ministering to children. We have some resources available to you. I said at the beginning that I wasn't going to tell you a particular program that you needed to follow or implement. However, if you are looking for some suggestions, some resources, some programs, if you're looking for music, I don't know if I mentioned this, music is so important. Even if you're just playing a CD of kids worship music throughout the room, that's going to be great for kids to just, again, get familiar with songs, to hear those songs. But if you're looking for any of that, I am so excited to tell you about this resource we have called Best Practices in Nursery Ministry. This brochure is available. It's free, available to you free. It's a downloadable PDF that you will be able to go through. It's got a lot of resources in there, from what is a nursery ministry, why, to sample job descriptions, to recommendations for resources, links to songs and videos, books that we recommend you might want to have in your nursery, as well as a sample sign-in sheet. I haven't talked about safety issues and all of that, and I'll leave that for another time and for you to look at. But it's a great resource, and I want to, at this time, acknowledge and thank Miriam Little for taking the time to put together and create this resource for CBOQ children and families. Miriam is one of our veteran children's pastors who've served in a number of our churches here in CBOQ, and is just such a wealth of wisdom, and I'm so thankful to her for creating this resource for us. So like I said, this is available to you free. You'll be able to get your copy following this video. You'll find in the comments that I'll put a message with a link of how you can get your resource. If you'd prefer that I mail a physical copy out to you, then that's available too. Just simply give me an email and I can send you however many copies that you would like. I will let you know that this resource is great in print form or online. If you are looking at it online, all of the resources are clickable links, which means you just click on the resource, the book, the picture of the book, and it'll take you right to some more information on how you can either purchase that or where you can find that. There's even a couple of sample lessons in there if you want to look at that. Again, I encourage you to catch a vision for the opportunity that you have with the littlest that come to your community. And I am so happy to be able to speak with you more, or to talk with you about how you can either begin or refresh or relaunch a nursery ministry or your nursery space. So again, you'll find all my information in the comments. You can contact me or comment on this video, and I would be happy to talk with you more about your nursery ministry. That's all for us today. I'm so glad that you joined us. We'll be doing more of these trainings. Our next training is in 2 weeks from today. Hope to see you there.